Hi, this is Eric from Longbox Review at longboxreview.com, and I have with me Travis to talk some comics. Welcome back, Travis.
Thanks for having me.
And Travis, please remind everybody where they can find you on the interwebs.
You can find me at Oddfellows Thoughts on YouTube. So you just type in Oddfellows Thoughts, and I'm the first person that shows up.
And boom, there you are, the
That's
YouTube sensation.
No, not that. But...
Well, I think you're pretty cool. Let's see. So, Travis, we haven't talked since February. You realize that? Since we did our Best of 2013 episode.
Wow.
It's been a long time.
It has.
So, in that amount of time, we have had some things come out to talk about. Not the least of which, or maybe the least of which, depending on your perspective, is Forever Evil. Since we started with the whole... I can't remember what led up to Trinity War. That was the lead up to Forever Evil.
Yep.
We talked about that.
That
and
felt
we
like
were
a long time ago, didn't it?
It seems like a year ago.
Or more.
Or more, yeah. I'll talk about that in a second. So I think we enjoyed Trinity War for the most part. We were kind of excited about what was coming next with Forever Evil. And then we got the first 3 issues of Forever Evil, and we talked about those on a previous episode. And we were less than enthusiastic, as I recall. So, but I wanted to kind of wrap things up with a cute little twisted bow, an Earth 3 bow, if you will.
Yeah.
Ooh, that was a little too nerdy. Anyway, so here we are to talk about Forever Evil, the rest of the series. That's issues 4 through 7. We'll see how much we get in, how much detail we get into. But in case you have not read Forever Evil, you were waiting for trades, or you just haven't gotten around to it, and Travis, this could be anyone's first listen to the podcast. So I have to say this: spoilers there may be, so we may talk about specific. Well, we will. We're going to talk about
guaranteed.
specific plot points, especially about the last issue, because that just blew my mind. And what that could mean. So we'll get to that in minutes from now. Maybe many minutes from now. Anyway. So, Travis, Forever Evil, the last half. What's your general thoughts about the series?
I'm now swearing off event books again.
Big surprise.
First and foremost. Oh. I don't know. Those last issues felt like they took forever, to come out and tell us anything. And I don't know, can you talk about Forever Evil by itself without having to talk about, in some sense, talking about Justice League America and Justice League books also?
I think so, because I when I was going back reading through these issues again, I realized, well, actually, on our previous look at Forever Evil, I read through the entire set of issues, both all Forever Evil, Justice League of America, and Justice League Dark, in preparation for our talk, and I realized, you know what, I didn't need to read pretty much anything but Forever Evil, and I think the Justice League, the main title, provides some interesting tidbits, but I don't think you really need to read the rest of them, unless you want the complete story. All the details.
You're not going to get any of the rest of the story in those other books. I mean, that would be the first thing I would say. Justice League of America is, yeah. I mean, there's nothing there. That was spinning its wheels the entire time. Anyway, okay, so Forever Evil, Forever Evil itself. The large, I don't know, it felt to me like the middle of that thing, we were kind of just going nowhere, really. I mean, there were small parts that I like. I mean, I like the, I don't know what you want to call it, reconstruction of Cyborg. I like the new look of Cyborg and whatnot. I like that development. What else? There's some, and we knew it was coming, or at least I knew it was coming. The whole Lex Luthor and his group basically ended up being the heroes out of the thing, because of course that's been used before a plot line. It feels like Lex Luthor's kind of obsession with he wants to be the hero, not the heroes that are, not our traditional heroes. He wants to be the hero, and he manages to get that out of it.
Although not in the way that he probably intended, which I think is an interesting way to approach this.
What do you mean?
Well, in the sense that he, because of the how things played out, he was able to, as you just said, he's able to become the hero of the story. But I think for the most part, what Luthor tries to do is again, it's hard to talk about this in my mind, Travis, because I keep thinking about how these characters were before the New 52.
Right.
And I have no bearing on who these characters are really in the New 52, even though we've been, it's 3 years into it now?
Yeah.
I still don't know. I still don't have a good bead on these characters. But anyway, that aside, to me, Lex Luthor is always trying to show the world that these people are not actually heroes and that he in some way is. But what happened is that he was put in a position where he became the hero by not necessarily discrediting other heroes, but by actually doing something apparently heroic, by quote unquote defeating the villains.
Right.
But then there's that scene, and we should probably not skip ahead too far into the storyline. But there's that scene where he is in the newly constructed Watchtower, but that's in the Justice League book, talking to the heroes. Mm-hmm. And so, he puts out all of his motivations out for everybody to see, and he still wants to involve them in what's coming, what the evil, the destruction that is still coming to claim the world.
The next event book, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So, anything else, Travis, on Forever Evil in general?
In general, no. I mean, when we get to the talking about the ramifications of how it all ends up and whatnot, I've got a lot more to say. But
okay, well, let's go ahead and move our way towards that. So let me see. So we did the first 3 issues on that previous episode. So now we have, like I said, issues 4 through 7. And I'm just going to throw out the highlights per issue, and you can add anything you'd like, Travis.
Sure.
So issue number 4, Superwoman tells Ultraman she's carrying his baby. Batman and Catwoman go to retrieve a mother box from some Wayne Industries place and run into Lex Luthor and his gang of villains. And then at the end of the issue, Sinestro shows up. So there's some plot moving on there. But it's interesting that Superwoman tells Ultraman she's carrying his baby. But more interesting to me about that was Ultraman's reaction to that. Because Superwoman tells him that he needs to help protect their child, and his reaction was, "I only need to protect me. It's all about me."
Right.
And then they move away from that moment. Of course, the whole Superwoman's baby thing has a different result as we get further on into the issues. Mm-hmm. So Superwoman being the conniving.
I don't know. To me, I guess one of the problems I had with the whole thing, and maybe it shows up more in the Justice League book and whatnot, was how ridiculously on the nose these characters are the opposite of our heroes. I don't know. It seemed over the top to me. Just how in the case of Ultraman, how selfish he is and whatnot, and how conniving mm-hmm. Superwoman is versus Wonder Woman. I don't know. It to me that ended up making the whole thing relatively predictable, I thought.
Well, what do you mean? Predictable in what way or ways?
I guess you knew what the response was going to be. There was no surprise in how the characters are going to behave, because you just had to basically go with the opposite of how our heroes from Earth 1 would act, and that's what you're going to get. I don't know. It just to me it seemed.
Well, they do some in some cases, not all of them, but in some cases they do come across a bit one note, right?
Uh-huh.
Especially Ultraman.
Yeah.
I wouldn't apply that though, Travis, to Owlman. You know, the whole opposite thing. I mean, yeah, there are ways in which he's opposite of Batman, but in a lot of ways he's the same in the sense of his desire to have certain members close to him that he considers family. He may not actually admit that, but he treats them that way. He certainly is upset when his Alfred is killed, and the way that he treats our Dick Grayson, Earth One's Dick Grayson, it's very similar to how our Bruce Wayne is.
Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, he's the one character though.
Yeah. Okay, so issue number 5, which actually, this is a 7-issue limited series that took 10 months for everything to come out, almost a year for a 7-issue thing. And I looked it up. I think this information is correct. So between issue 4 and 5, there was a 1-month skip. So 2 months after 4 came out, 5 came out, and then number 7 that skipped 2 months. So it took 3 months altogether. So yeah, it was an interesting, because as I was reading this, as we got further along into it, it was like, what? I'm still reading this. What's going on? I've forgotten because it took so long to come out.
Right, definitely.
And of course that pushed some other books out too, because they were directly tied into what was going on either in issue 7 or directly coming out of the events of issue 7. So now we've got some books that are at issue 32 and some that are not.
Right.
As at the time that we record this, I think 32 is the latest number of issues that are out for most of the DC line. Anyway, issue 5, pretty much the villains fight. Deathstroke, after some convincing, decides to join Luthor. Batman tells them this. I love this. I love this scene. I don't know about you, Travis, but Batman is there with Catwoman. There's all these villains there standing in front of him and Catwoman, and he's basically, Batman's being Batman. He's telling them that they're all going to take down the syndicate by his rules.
Right.
The chutzpah on Bruce Wayne is just incredible. The issue ends with the syndicate seeing that the big bad that destroyed their world has found them. And then we see that big red energy pattern in the sky. What does that remind you of, Travis?
I don't know. What's it supposed to remind me of?
Crisis, man. Crisis.
Yeah, I know. But, yeah, I guess what that's for us old school people to be all excited about, I guess. I mean, because anybody who's jumped into the DC universe with the New 52 is that, doesn't have any.
Oh, sure. Historical significance. Yeah, you're right.
Right.
Yeah, but still. So one thing that there's some speculation that's out there right now is that all the weeklies that are out, Batman Eternal, what's the other? Future's End.
Future's End, yeah.
And then the Earth 2, Earth 1 World's End.
Mm-hmm.
So all that stuff is supposed to be done by March or April of next year. And April 2015 is the 30th anniversary of Crisis on Infinite Earths #1 coming out.
Old?
Yeah, yes we are.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So, and considering who shows up at the end of issue number 7, I mean, it's setting all that up potentially anyway.
Uh-huh.
And of course, some people are speculating, maybe we'll get another reboot of the DC universe. I don't think that's going to happen, but it's a possibility, I suppose.
Get those new #1s rolling in.
That's right. See, DC did learn something from Marvel. Okay. Issue number 6. Batman and company find, and by company I mean Batman and Lex Luthor and his group, they find Dick Grayson strapped to a murder machine, and the only way to free him is to kill him. And so issue number 6 is the one with the cover that has the cover of Dick Grayson's face on it, and I think it says Nightwing's Last Stand or something like that. And so, up to this point, me included, the speculation then was that they were going to kill off Nightwing. Dan DiDio was finally going to get his way.
Yep.
And kill off Dick Grayson.
Yep.
The only way to free him is to kill him, which actually Luthor does. He does kill Dick Grayson. So Dan did get what he wanted. Meanwhile, Captain Cold frees the hooded guy that we had seen in the previous issues. Who did you think that was, Travis, initially when you first saw that hooded guy?
The guy with the bag over his head.
Yeah.
My first thought was like that's either another Luthor, or I mean that's my first thought is it's Lex Luthor.
Uh-huh.
But I couldn't figure out why they would steal because in the past, right? He's been like the only real superhero of Earth 3, right?
Right.
So that was my first thought was it's some version of Lex, or it's Alex, or that it was like Superboy Prime or something horrid like that.
Oh God, that would have been horrible.
I know, but I didn't. I mean, I don't know at that point. Those are my initial guesses as to who it was.
See, I thought it might have been Booster Gold, or who am I thinking of? Blue Beetle.
Blue Beetle.
The Ted Kord version. Mm. But of course we had already seen Ted Kord's father at the very beginning of Forever Evil. So anyway, but my money was on Booster Gold.
Yeah, that makes a certain amount of sense too, just because the whole time travel thing.
But considering
Rip Hunter,
yeah. But considering that it's Earth 3 and the crime syndicate, Alexander Luthor is probably the better bet. Yeah. I was kind of hoping they wouldn't go that path. But guess what? Captain Cold frees the guy, and it turns out to be Alexander Luthor.
Yeah. Shocker.
But he has the power of Mazash, because Earth 3 is opposite, right? So it can't be Shazam. It has to be Mazash.
Yeah.
So he has whatever Mazash is on Earth 3, but he also has the added ability to steal other people's superpowers. And so he quickly takes care of Johnny Quick and steals his power, and then tries to go after others as well. So it's a weird, I don't know, Alexander Luthor from this Earth 3, the New 52 Earth 3 is quite a bit different from his previous incarnation.
Right.
Let's see here. So basically, once they reveal that Alexander Luthor is the guy, everybody starts fighting Luthor. Superwoman, here we go, here's the baby again, reveals that it's not actually Ultraman's baby, it's Alex Luthor's baby.
Yeah.
And then Bizarro is... Oh, wait, I skipped ahead. That's actually number 7. Oh, well, let's go on. Bizarro is killed. Did you remember this, Travis? Our Luthor, Lex Luthor, seemed to have a bit of remorse about the fact that his creation was dead.
Yep.
And they kind of made it look like that he was just mad that somebody destroyed his creation, this experiment that he started. But there was a couple panels there where he seemed to be actually feeling, having some empathy there. Yeah. Which I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, that is one of the few moments that I thought was interesting and I liked, where it felt like we had characters actually being characters as opposed to, just the cardboard superheroes that we have going on as a whole in the book.
Yeah, exactly.
I thought that was cool. I thought that was, because there's a couple moments throughout the series that's that way. Him telling the story about his, I don't know. I liked their relationship. There were some good moments in there between them. So I look forward to the half-baked Bizarro coming back again at some point.
That's right. So the story you mentioned, that's the one where before Bizarro gets killed, he doesn't want to go into, I think there's some dark area. He's like afraid of the dark or something. Right. That's at least that's the implication. And so Luthor tells him this story, that was so bizarre to me too, that Luthor is taking the time to try and calm the fears or the perceived fears of this creature by telling him a story about his past.
Yeah, which is a lie. The story from his past, don't they reveal that as being a lie?
Yeah, but still, it's just, I don't know. Moment...
I just think it shows that Luthor is more of a manipulator, even on a small scale, as opposed to, he needs Bizarro. So he does what he needs to do to
Sure.
manipulate Bizarro for what he needs. I don't know that I mean, part of it feels like there's a bit of compassion there, but at the same time, you also question whether or not it's real compassion, real empathy, because he's using him. He's a tool.
Right, right. I mean, it is Lex Luthor after all. So yeah, even though we're getting all these little bits about him that we're, I think we're responding to that we like you said, you like that one little character bit there. But Jeff Johns is still presenting Luthor. He's you can't totally turn Lex Luthor into a good guy because he's the best bad guy in the DC universe, or one of the best.
Yeah.
And so he always has to have that edge to him. You can't quite trust him. You can never trust Luthor, right? So they always have to keep that part of it alive. Otherwise, Luthor will lose, his Luthorness.
Right.
I like that bit though. Those, like you said, those little bits that we're responding to. I think they're really cool. I'm really enjoying what they're doing with Luthor at the end of this Forever Evil story, and then what comes out of Forever Evil into the Justice League book. But we'll talk about that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Luthor tricks Alexander into losing his powers and kills him. They have a lightning rod that Batman gave them, and so Lex Luthor calls down the lightning of Mazash and transforms Alexander into his frail self, and then kills him. The Justice League, the Justice Leagues are freed from the prison they were in, the Firestorm prison, which you read about in Justice League of America mostly, which that was
horrible.
Waste. Anyway,
horrible.
But they certainly painted. They're really painting Stargirl as a force in the DCU just through that one story, which I find interesting in one sense. Just that they're really, because Stargirl was a favorite of, and that version of Stargirl is a creation of Jeff Johns.
Right.
So he's the guy writing Forever Evil. He's the guy writing Justice League. So he's the creative officer, whatever, chief creative officer, whatever it is. He is, and so this creation of his is getting a lot of screen time and central to the story over in the Justice League of America book. So I'm really curious, and now she's in the Justice League United. So I'm really curious why they're setting her up this way, and what direction are they going to push the character going forward. But still, that the whole JLA storyline was just, to me, it just seemed like a lot of filler.
It was
to get us to the end of Forever Evil.
Right, and that's what it was. It was a lot of just nothing because they couldn't move forward with any kind of a storyline because it's all tied into Forever Evil. Mm-hmm. So we got 2 or 3 issues of really the exact same story over and over, doing nothing.
Yeah, exactly.
Just literally waiting for it to all end, and then it gets to the end. It's not the end. The end is, well, you need to read the end in Forever Evil. So if you were a poor soul who happened to be just reading Justice League of America, you got screwed. But
does anybody just read one title like that? Because you didn't, Travis, right? You got all the Justice League titles.
Yes,
right?
I did. Yes, I did. But I was getting those Justice League titles before the Forever Evil thing started. So for me, it was no big deal. I would have been really irritated if I hadn't been, and then I went to get them thinking that I needed to because of that. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't know if there are people out there who are just reading one or the other.
I'm really curious about that. If anybody is listening to this and that you do that or you did that, I'm really curious what your thoughts were about what your thoughts were about the event, I guess, if you're only reading, like, say, Justice League of America.
See, I think it's unfortunate because it feels to me like Justice League of America was solely created for the purpose of the Forever Evil event. It never had its own story. It never had its own thing. It never was, and then it's kind of, I guess maybe it's not canceled. I guess if you don't look at it as being canceled, its name got changed and got turned into Justice League United, I guess. but it feels like it got canceled, and then they started a whole new book.
That's how I look at it, though.
Is what
I think it was canceled, and they just replaced it with JLU.
Okay, so looking at, I mean, this is kind of off topic, but looking at the Justice League of America book, what was its purpose then? You gathered up some fairly interesting characters and then did nothing with 80% of them in that book, and then it ended as a nothing.
Yeah. So from that perspective, I guess, yeah, you're right. It seemed to be solely to help push the story of Forever Evil,
because they didn't have someplace else to fit in the whole Injustice Society with the little coins and whatnot. They couldn't fit that in someplace else, so they had to kind of put it in there. I mean, because most of those characters didn't really get used. I mean, so what was the just to me it was, you look back on it and how that whole thing was treated. I feel somewhat cheated on that, because I don't feel like it was its own thing ever.
Well, the whole premise of that book to begin with, Waller and whoever else was involved there, getting these characters together to be able to take down the Justice League if necessary. That was a pretty weak premise to begin with.
Well, I don't mind that as being the idea of why the team existed in the first place. Obviously, that's not what they would be used for, but you could tell a lot of other stories. But I'm okay with that being the premise of, this is why we created them in the first place. This is why we're gathering these people up.
Yeah, I just didn't think it had a lot of legs, though.
Yeah, but they could have done a lot more with.
Oh, sure. They could have come out of this Forever Evil thing, and did something, with it. I mean, and they did try at the end, right? Because Green Arrow was like, no, we should stay. Some of us should stay together and continue this on, and nobody wanted anything to do with it, right? So I think when you and I talked about this a little bit, on Twitter or something, I can't remember now, but you had said that before about the Justice League of America book being like a creation for Forever Evil. And at the time, I disagreed with you, because I didn't think that that's what they created it for. But looking back on it now, I've come around to that idea.
Yeah,
I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, because it never really told its own story. It never got a chance to. It kind of faked like it was going to at the beginning, and then yeah.
Right. Exactly. And I was excited for it because there were an interesting mix of characters.
Right. Yeah, agreed. But yeah. Anyway. Forever Evil.
Okay, where were we? So, like I said, the Justice Leagues are freed, although they don't do much once they're freed. Sinestro and Black Adam restore the moon's orbit, thus rendering Ultraman weak, because he can't, while the sun empowers Superman, the sun depowers Ultraman. So Luthor commits murder by stomping on Atomica. As he says, this all started with you and it ends with you.
Yep.
And then, uncharacteristically, saves Superman's life by removing that kryptonite shard in his brain, which I'm sure Superman is loving.
Oh, yeah.
In the end of the series, Owlman is still loose. Ultraman and Superwoman are in custody. Johnny is dead. So is Power Ring. I didn't mention that before. Atomica is dead. Am I missing anybody else from the Syndicate? I think that's it.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's all.
So they're in custody. Lex Luthor, and this is one of the things at the end of Forever Evil that got me excited. Lex Luthor deduces that Batman is Bruce Wayne.
That sucks.
I think it's great. And the being who destroyed Earth 3 that they talked about, is it Darkseid, because that's who Superman and the Justice League thinks is behind it? But no, it's not. It's the Anti-Monitor. Dun dun dun.
And my first thought, second I see this Anti-Monitor, my first thought is, oh crap, here comes the next event book. not oh cool, what's this gonna mean? It was just, oh man, here comes the next Forever Evil. I don't know. Because this, I don't know, felt like it took forever.
Like I said, it took 10 months to tell this story.
You don't want to forget, Lex Luthor kills Dick Grayson, but also brings him back.
Oh yeah, I did forget to mention that.
Was prepared to bring him back. So
Yeah, because
So
you gave him that
despite
pill, right?
despite Bruce is freaking out, gonna kill Luthor because Luthor killed Grayson, he talks him down enough to where he can actually then bring him back.
And there's a couple of times during the story, during these last 4 issues of the story, where after Batman and Lex Luthor join forces, you get a bit of Luthor's monologue, and a few times he talks about Batman. And there's one point where they're heading towards where they're storing, where they find out that Dick Grayson is, and Lex is saying something about how he shouldn't push Batman's buttons, but it's so much fun to do so.
Right.
And then at the end there, where he's given Dick that pill to basically stop his heart but not kill him, so that they can get him out of the murder machine. And then after so he has to deal with that with Batman. But after that, when everything is done, and they're going to split up, Lex Luthor wishes Batman luck and offers his hand. Offers to shake Batman's hand, and Batman reluctantly does so and tells him good luck. And then Lex Luthor says something about, a distracted Batman is a good thing, and then he holds up the kryptonite ring that I think Batman had at one point.
Right.
So
right.
Yeah, Lex Luthor doing his usual Lex Luthorness, but it's interesting I really enjoyed the interaction between Batman and Lex Luthor during this last part of the story. And then you get to the whole Lex Luthor deduces. And remember when we talked about this in the last time, during the last podcast episode where we talked about Forever Evil? Mm-hmm. Once they revealed Dick Grayson's identity to the world, the crime syndicate, that was my big question. Well, what does that mean for Batman?
Right.
How long will it be before somebody smart, or somebody not even so smart? Because we don't know. It's only 5 years into this DC universe, and we don't know the timeline with Dick Grayson being Robin and then moving on to become Nightwing, and what's the association with Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson in their guises. So I don't know this stuff, so it's really hard for me to guess, but. What is that? What did that all mean? Well, apparently it didn't mean much, because it took one of the smartest men in the world to figure out that Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson were tied together, and therefore Batman is Bruce Wayne.
Right.
Although Tim Drake figured it out too, and he's just a kid. Anyway. I just read that origin story in Secret Origins #3, where they detailed all that stuff. Anyway. So now Lex Luthor knows that Bruce Wayne is Batman, and then you get I thought it was a cool story in Justice League. What was it, number 30, where he goes? I guess it's 31.
31 or 32, yeah.
I think because in 30, he shows up at the end of that issue at Wayne Manor and says to Alfred he'd like to talk to Batman.
Right.
So. But then Luthor and Bruce have this conversation, and it was really interesting.
I hate that.
Why? Why did you hate that?
I hate it because it never turns out well, and I don't mean from the character's standpoint. This whole thing. I mean, it's an interesting idea, but long term, how does this? I don't. It's never very pretty how they end up having to fix this kind of stuff, because at some point they'll have to fix it. They can't go forward for forever now unless they plan on Lex Luthor always being a hero, him knowing that Bruce Wayne is Batman. How does that work? Mm-hmm. 4 years from now, how does that work? It can't. Not, like I said, unless they're going to fundamentally change Lex Luthor forever and him be some sort of hero. What would be the premise for him not once he's exposed as to not being the great guy that he's, billed as right now, which is going to happen at some point.
Yes.
How do they fix that? I'm going to bring in Zatanna and mind wipe him. I mean, right? To me, it just...
Oh, it's an identity crisis all over again.
Yes. Well, I'm just saying from that perspective, it just feels very ugly. So I hate it because those things are never cleaned up well. It always ends up becoming some sort of hokum that they put out there. It was a really bad plot idea or whatever to somehow fix it. I mean, yes, it's interesting right now, but I don't see long term for the longevity of these characters. How does that work? without delivering us some awful story that I know I'm just going to be, rolling my eyes about.
Okay, so I totally agree with you. And they already are hedging their bets because in that same issue of Justice League, Batman calls Superman and says he knows and I need your help.
What's Superman gonna do? Superman, he's gonna go in and yeah, I don't. I mean, calling up and saying I need your help. I just don't. I have a hard time envisioning how Superman is going to fix Lex Luthor, knowing who Batman is.
Well, I'm sure Bruce has the plan.
Short of Lex Luthor disappearing forever. I mean, I don't.
Well, that won't happen.
Well, I know, because the Justice League going forward is going to have some traditional villains in it. So,
which I think that's a cool idea. But let's table that for a second.
Sure.
Like I said, I agree with you on the execution of this plot point could be messy. It usually is, but you know what? We've been reading comics a long time now, and I guess I don't look at those things in the long term necessarily. What I'm looking for, what I enjoy are those little character moments like this. Those are the things that stand out to me, and I just enjoy them for what they are at the moment, and I don't really worry about what's going to come until and then it comes and like, oh, geez, that was stupid, or the potential here, just like the potential for the change in creative team on Wonder Woman that's coming.
Sorry,
could be good.
No.
Come on, you have to admit, Travis, there is that possibility.
Yeah, and I can win the lottery too. I mean, you're right. There is always that possibility. I can't say that's not impossible, but no, I'm sorry. That's going to be bad.
Okay. Well, anyway, I really I enjoyed that whole. I'm enjoying that whole thing.
Sure.
I'm also enjoying the appearance of Lex Luthor and some of the other villains in the Justice League books so far. Mm-hmm. I mean, they haven't really. Where I've read is that, like I said, Luthor called the Justice League up to the newly built Watchtower, Shazam in tow, now being part of the Justice League, apparently, and just the presence of Luthor as the hero in the eyes of the world, but not turning on the Justice League because he needs them, because he thinks he needs them to defeat whatever's coming next, which is the Anti-Monitor. I'm really hopeful that whole storyline will pay off in some way. I'm just like I said, I'm enjoying the moment that's been created for me.
So, do you think that this will, the whole Anti-Monitor thing, do you think that ties into Grant Morrison's multiverse thing at all?
I think it's a really interesting question. I doubt it very much. I was doing some reading today about that, and it seems like, based on some interviews, and I haven't read all these interviews, but based on
Grant's
interviews,
off doing his own thing, right?
Basically, the Multiversity may tie in to the New 52 events of the New 52 stuff in the DCU, but for the most part, the consensus is that it's pretty much removed from that. Mm-hmm. So I doubt it. But who knows? Right. Grant will surprise us oftentimes. So, okay, so let's talk about that. So, Anti-Monitor. So, when I saw that, my mind was like, oh, wow, Anti-Monitor, Crisis on Infinite Earths, the anniversary's coming up. This is kind of cool. Mm-hmm. But then again, I'm like, really? Anti-Monitor? Really? They couldn't come up with something else?
Right. Yeah, that's. I don't know. I guess you're talking about these, great points about the book and whatnot. And I guess by the time I got to issue 7, I felt like it had taken forever to get there, and there was so much stuff that, with the side issues of things, that just, it left a bad enough taste in my mouth that I wasn't really excited by most of that stuff. And the Anti-Monitor was one more thing that just kind of, I get the whole that it ties, that potentially could tie into whatever. But like I said, my first thought was, okay, so now we know what the next event book's going to be, basically. And I wasn't too excited about that because this one wasn't, as a whole, wasn't that exciting to me. I mean, it took so long to tell the equivalent of about, 48 hours worth of story. It just, yeah. I guess other thing I think is funny, and I go back to the whole launching of the New 52, and some of the things that the CEO said that the reason they're doing it, the rationale behind it, was to clean up the universe, to make it simple for new readers to get in and let it and start reading it. And now they have basically done everything they can to put in all the characters that make the DC universe this incredibly muddy place potentially again. As soon as you get the Anti-Monitor, right? He's about multiverse and chewing them up or whatever. I don't know. To me, it just seems like they've gone back to introducing all these characters that make things really confusing. And I just think it's interesting that they've in less than a 3-year span, they're basically pushing themselves right back to where they were.
Mm-hmm. Well, DC has always done that, right? So we had Crisis in '85, and that was the whole point, was to clean up what at that time was it 50 years of DC?
Yeah, something like
that. And yeah, about 50 years of DC, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously that didn't work out very well. So what happened then? Then they did the 0 Hour event to clean it up even further,
mm-hmm.
right? And then that still didn't work because they're trying to shoehorn their universe, their entire universe into a certain path, and the writers and the artists, they wanted to play around with stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right, and so I think we're getting the same thing now. So they relaunched the entire universe, and it's really different in a lot of ways, and not so different in others. And you get, what I think is I think that the folks that work at DC suffer from an acute bout of nostalgia, and they got because they have their favorite things.
Sure.
And they want to bring those in. Yeah. I'm not faulting them for it. I would do the same thing if I were them. Mm-hmm. But they're it's going to happen no matter how many times they reboot their universe. So I guess I'm making an argument that they should not do that at all. You should just let things grow organically, and forget about the stuff that doesn't work. Don't touch that, and let the things that do work, work. And grow and expand, and let others play in each other's sandboxes. And I guess I'm coming down on the side now that while I was excited about the New 52 leading up to it, and in those first few months, even the first year,
mm-hmm.
now I've decided I don't think they had to do that at all. I much preferred what they had before. And this thing that is the DCU now, the New 52 stuff, is just, I don't know what it is anymore. And as a longtime fan, it's hard for me. Maybe I'm just old and I can't roll with the punches. But it's just let the stories breathe. And you and I have talked about this before.
Yes.
That's my biggest complaint about the DC universe, is that they keep throwing, so they had their first big event of Forever Evil. But they always, in all the books, they also have these little what I think of as mini events. These like Superman. There's the Doom storyline, and I don't know what else we got going on, Travis. There's always something going on,
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and what I see is a lot of action and plot moving forward. But what I don't see is a lot of characterization development, and moments where the characters get to breathe.
Right.
And us along with it. It's just event after event after event after event, whether it's a big company-wide event or not. It's just always something is happening. And sure, maybe that appeals to a certain readership that DC has. It doesn't appeal to me, obviously. But I don't know. How long can they keep up this momentum before, one, creators get burned out or readers get burned out on it? When are they going to, like I said, when are they going to let the characters breathe? When are they going to let these things develop organically?
When the books quit selling,
I guess. But no, they'll just relaunch it and with a new team and just throw all this plot, action-y stuff at you.
Maybe, or enough of the right people will change hands to go, you know what, we need to think in a long-term fashion as to, how does this stuff hold up over time? Because they want an invested readership as much as they want new readership, I would assume. and you can't get invested in something that never takes the time to allow me to be truly that interested in the characters and what's going on. I think that's one of the big problems with this event. If I look at from the beginning of the New 52 going forward, how much do I care about any of these people that were involved in this event? Do I really know a whole lot more about the Justice League, just reading the Justice League book, than I do the Crime Syndicate? I don't really know a whole lot more about one than the other, and I should. I should have an investment in the Justice League as a team, right? And I don't think we do, really.
No. We're 30 some issues into Justice League.
Right.
And we don't know how they interact with each other.
Right. And I'm not saying that we aren't fans of the Justice League, or you couldn't be a new reader and be fans of the idea of what the Justice League is. I am. I always have been. I have been for forever. But I'm relying on, for me to enjoy the book, I'm relying on way, way older information that really doesn't completely mesh with how the characters are now, because no one's ever bothered to flesh them out and add those moments that you keep talking about. They're so few and far between that I think that's one of the reasons why this, to me, comes across as long, drawn out, and flat, because I don't have a real vested interest in the characters, their relationship. What does it mean? Is it tragic that Cyborg was tore apart and all of his mechanics were pulled off of him? Yeah, it's tragic because it's one less hero, but I don't feel invested in Vic Stone to go, oh my gosh, what's going to happen to him? I mean, how is this? So what? There was never anything there to make us care, I don't think. And you're right. I mean, it's the whole universe is that way now. I think this whole thing would have been much more entertaining, exciting, and stuff if we had a better level of understanding of how these characters operate with each other. The few character moments we got are things like where Batman decides to show Superman that he's got a box with everybody's name on it and an answer for everybody. That's one of the few moments of, okay, this is how these people operate with each other. There's just, because they're so few and far between. They're just, so what? Because we've never been told just stories of them simply being the Justice League doing something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember back in the day when we were reading New Teen Titans, and they did that the Day in the Life, that one issue where they were all in their civilian identities, and we got to see them as they were interacting with their friends and family and each other in that way. Yeah, ever since the New 52 relaunch of Justice League, after the first initial, the Darkseid story, I've been waiting for something like that. Yeah. I just want to see scenes with these characters talking to each other, interacting, not dealing with the crisis du jour.
Right. I mean, I get to some degree, if you want to know about those characters, you go read their individual books. I mean, I understand that with it being the mechanic that it is and the type of thing that it is, that you can't have lots of that, but there should be something. Who tells jokes to each other? Who talks about dates with each other? There has to be some level of interaction. I mean, we all have jobs, and I'm assuming most of us work with other people. You end up having conversations that, and maybe other people don't want to have those or hear those conversations, but I kind of do. I kind of want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
What their relationships are with each other. It makes me invested in them, and that's not there. And until they get that, those kinds of books are just not going to be that good, I don't think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, what you said earlier, things coming across as flat. That's a good way to sum it up, or at least how I feel about things right now. I hate to end things on a somewhat downer note. I still love the DC universe. I still love the characters. Sure. I'm just not happy in general in what I guess what I'm not getting out of it, whereas I was getting that before. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why we can't have the New 52 and the whole action-y stuff and get those character moments too.
Right. I totally agree. I have no problem with the reboot. I mean, I get why it happened and stuff. It brought in a lot of people. But I think you would have brought in all those people that have brought in, even if they were continued to write the books the way they were writing them before.
Mm-hmm. Well, and
I don't think they've captured this larger readership solely because this new way they're writing, this all action all the time, you know, type thing. I don't think that's what I don't think that's what's keeping people around. I don't know. I hope not. I hope it's not just me and you in our little corner going, oh, and everybody else just wants that high paced, you know, character be damned. Let's just, you know, get to the next face punching, you know, kind of a thing. So.
Yeah. Well, there you go. That's a very good question to throw out to the audience. You know, are we way off base? Are we the only ones who think this way? I doubt it, because I was reading some forum posts on a website, and talking about Forever Evil, and boy, you know how some people are on the internet, Travis.
Oh yeah.
They're never pleased with anything, and everything is bad and sucks, and they should just stop and all that kind of stuff. So I doubt we're the only ones, but
well, I'm not asking for it to go backwards. I mean,
no.
I don't. You know, like I said, me personally, I don't have a problem with the relaunch of the New 52, the clean slate and whatever. That to some degree that makes sense, but now they need to start fleshing these people out. That's really, and
yes.
they're not doing that.
Yeah. And in fact, if they did, let's see, you know, down the road, I don't even want to speculate how long it would have to be, but if they decided, you know what, this experiment's not working, and they reboot the universe again, I would be more angry if they did that than if they just continued on and tried to, you know, fix things as they go. You know, back when we read Crisis, like I said, back in the mid '80s, that was a really awesome concept.
Oh, heck yeah, yeah.
But every time they've done it since then, and you know, and I'm a big Legion of Superheroes fan. Well, they would do that too. You know, something would happen in the time stream, and suddenly the Legion would be different. Mm-hmm. So they did it there too, in a smaller scale. But they would just, you know, wipe the slate clean and start over, and then would just continue to do that. You know, like I said, that happened first in Crisis. Okay, fine. Then they did 0 Hour, and then we had a little bit of a reboot with Final Crisis, although that never really went anywhere. Mm-hmm. You know, because the universe was remade in Superman's image in a way. You know, and right. And the Superboy punching the walls of reality in what Crisis was that?
I can't remember.
Whichever one that was. You know, so they're constantly, you know, playing around with the universe, and that's fine. But I don't know. I don't know what the hell I'm trying to say. Well, I'm sick of the reboots, I guess.
Right. Well, for me, it's not the reboot. For me, it's not the reboot. I'm okay. I'm okay with that. It's not the reboot so much as it is. I don't think we're getting quality. We're there. To me, it's the DC's new formula that started with the New 52. You know, they basically have this mandate. You know, they have a list of, and I don't know what the whole list is. We've gotten kind of an idea of some of the list. You know, the action and all that kind of stuff. That's the focus. And if that's the only focus, then it becomes numbing after a while. And for me,
mm-hmm.
You know, so it's going to change. I hope. You know, it's just a matter of how long is it before it changes. It's at some point you're going to start getting some other people in, some other stuff written, some other editors in, and hopefully somewhere along the way we slowly start squeezing in some more character moments.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I you're right, of course. You know, change of creative direction and all that. That's could be a really good thing. What I fear is what's going on right now, though, is that they have a particular direction they're driving everything towards, and I don't necessarily think it's working, or it's definitely, it comes across as a bit static, like you said, a bit flat, mm-hmm. and I just want things to work a little bit more organically. But
right,
you know, I don't work for DC. I don't know what the hell's going on. All I see is the product, and then I have my reaction to it. Mm-hmm. I just like I said, I love these characters. I love the DC universe. I have since almost the beginning of when I started reading comic books. And I care a lot about it, so I want it to be good. And right now, it's not as good as I would like it to be, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
If I only ran the company, Travis.
Yeah.
They'd be out of business tomorrow.
Yeah.
So if you, like I said before, I'm really interested in what people have to say about this. This conversation, Travis, turned into a lot of me bitching about the DC Universe, and that's not where I intended to go with this episode. But
well, other than it's the main event, right? It's the big thing about the universe. So it's kind of a statement about the DC Universe, and we're not happy.
Yeah. Right. Okay. So that's a good way to put it. You know, we're not happy, but I'm sure some people out there are happy about it.
Sure.
So I'd be interested in hearing or reading people's thoughts on Forever Evil, how it ended, what it meant to you, and where you think the DC Universe is going with this in relation to the ending Forever Evil and the direction that's going on with in Justice League, which I'm actually more excited about than anything else that's come out of this. Even the fact that Dick Grayson is still alive. I'm really curious how Luthor and anybody else that he has that is a villain, because isn't Captain Cold supposed to be part of this too?
Yes, he will be part of the team. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I'm really curious how that's all going to work out. I think that's a really interesting premise and something that's more interesting than what we've had so far, I guess. So I would like to hear people's thoughts on that as well. And you can send those thoughts to longboxreview@gmail.com. There's a voicemail number, there's Twitter, there's Facebook, there's all this stuff. If you go to longboxreview.com/feedback, all that information is there for you to get a hold of me. So Travis, remind everybody where they can find you and your interesting discussions about comics, your monster comic reviews. What's No Capes?
No Capes.
And you do What the Fugue.
Yep.
Those are your three main ones, right?
Those are the three main things, yeah. Then I throw in odds and ends wherever.
Yeah. So you just did that video about Doom Patrol, the Doom Patrol issues that you have. Oh, we didn't talk about Doom Patrol that showed up.
Yeah. I'm excited about that.
Yeah. We'll have to do that some other time. We'll talk Doom Patrol later.
Cool.
Okay.
But yeah, you can find me. You can find me at Oddfellows Thoughts on YouTube. You just type in Oddfellows Thoughts there on YouTube, and I'm the first thing that shows up. So,
right, and you can find the Longbox Review podcast also on Stitcher. I need to remember to let you know that. And also, I'm a proud member of the Comics Podcast Network, where you can find lots and lots of really cool comic book podcasts. So go check them out. And that's it. Thank you, Travis. We'll talk really soon about some other comics.
Awesome.
Thanks for listening, everybody.